We've got a late night date with you each and every night here at the Voice of College Football during the 2025 college football season. So don't be late. Don't break our date. Here we are, 10 p.m. Eastern time to talk college football with you for as long as you would like us to. So that is completely up to you. We will be here for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever you would like. The date is decided by all of you. We are going to run through the college football news of the day, including a look at week 4. I do see that there are some news articles up there to get to. So we'll look at those. Comments and questions are welcome. Of course, we appreciate your contributions. They will keep us going. Yeah. Tukey G, thanks for leading us off as usual. It's very kind of you, sir. Thongway, good to see you too. Did the Michigan podcast this week, also the Bigger 10. Check those out on the Steve Dace Michigan podcast channel. Also, Ohio State Buckeyes live this morning and the Miami Hurricanes live show tonight. Michiganders here. Good to see all of you. So, most of us a bit, I would say maybe tired of the transfer portal and the various windows that don't seem to make sense, that there are too many and it's just too chaotic across the board. Well, something was done about that. And so that was announced today. This coming in from Max Olson. This coming in from Max Olson of ESPN. College football is officially moving to a single offseason transfer portal window. The NCAA announced Wednesday the Division I Administrative Committee voted to approve a legislative change that eliminates the spring transfer window, but did not sign off on establishing January 2nd through 11th as the loan portal window for FBS and FCS players. And obviously that would be extended for those teams that advance past that date. In response to feedback from student athletes, the FBS and FCS Oversight Committee will discuss modifying the dates and length of the proposed January window. I think we could expect it to be slightly larger, I would think, since there will just be one. FBS head coaches advocated for a January portal window at the AFCA convention in January, and both oversight committees voted to support changing the transfer window earlier this month. The reform will bring major changes in the timing and duration of the offseason transfer period to college football. The initial proposal would require college football players to wait until January 2nd, the day after the completion of the college football playoff quarterfinals. Players would have 10 days to enter the portal, but are under no deadline to make a commitment to their next school once they enter. Players on teams competing for the CFP would have 5 days after their final postseason game to enter the portal. So the big advancement there and the big benefit to all of this is spring football practice. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me. And I thought that was a huge issue in all of this, is that you play a college football season, you have a transfer portal window in December, and so you've got this transfer portal window while teams are preparing for the college football playoff and while teams are preparing for bowl games, and also during National Signing Day and the days leading up to National Signing Day and trying to put together a recruiting class. So keep all of that in mind. And that's how this has been conducted for 5 or 6 years. And then on top of that, mass exodus during December, and then teams go to spring practice and with the intent of spring practice is a time of teaching. It's a time of development. It's a time of going back to the basics, of instilling technique and fundamentals into your football team. And then you have a transfer portal right after that, and players continue to leave. And therefore, you then have players that come into your program. First of all, you've got players that partake in spring practice who are no benefit to your team because then they then left. So they were a detriment to your team because they took up reps that could have been used by somebody else. So then they leave after spring practice. And then the players that replace them ultimately don't step on the field officially with the team until August 1st. And so you're trying to integrate all these players into a new system, acclimate them to their teammates, their coaches, new terminology, new everything in August. So I see no negatives to this move. This is a good move. This will allow schools, once again, to have their roster set for spring practice to develop their teams. We also see on this fine Wednesday that South Carolina star quarterback Lenora Sellers is questionable against Missouri. And let me refresh my memory on South Carolina's backup quarterback. So Sellers left in the first half of the Gamecocks lost to Vandy on Saturday. So he left in the first half. I saw maybe 3 plays of this game. Replaced by 6th-year senior Luke Doty. Luke Doty is still around at South Carolina. Goodness. 18 for 27, 148 yards. So what does he bring to the table? Experience, obviously. Cool, calm demeanor, we would somewhat assume. I've seen him play. Nothing really stands out. There's a reason that he's on the bench as a 6th-year senior. So he's not the best option. He's not what you would want as a team that had hopes of competing in the SEC and competing for playoff. This is a substantial, enormous downgrade. He could generate no offense when he was in. However, this is not a guy that's going to take it off the rails either. He's going to hand the ball off. He's going to make generally the right reads, and he's going to run the offense. But South Carolina is taking an enormous hit here. And again, that doesn't mean that Doty is playing and Sellers is not, but he is questionable. And sources tell us that Caden Salter will once again be the starting quarterback at Colorado this weekend. And he should have always been the starting quarterback at Colorado. That was a bad move by one Deion Sanders. Let's preview week 4. We love the comments, questions there in the chat. Please give me a call. The call-in line is available to you as well if you're watching on Twitter and X. We do appreciate that you're joining us, and it's just a different way to reach out to a different audience. However, we are going to cut off that feed here very soon. So join us on YouTube, because what you can do is you can take part in the fine chat with people like Joe Long and Ryan and Doc P and Adam. You can do that. So going in 10, 9, 8. And the Twitter feed is leaving us in 3, 2, and 1. Join us on YouTube. Okay. Adam, thank you so much for the contribution. Oh, as soon as I saw this in the box score, keep in mind, I haven't seen really one Penn State play this year. Their first 3 games are unwatchable. They were unwatchable. I knew they would be unwatchable. Anybody with any sense that knows college football knows that they were unwatchable. There's no reason to watch it. maybe I saw 3 plays because of the halftime highlights or something. So I did see the box score, though, and as soon as I saw that Drew Aller threw a pick against Villanova, I thought, uh-oh, Adams coming after him, because he said that if Drew Aller throws one interception against a silly Villanova team, I just thought they were atrocious. I thought they were awful. I just thought that they, obviously, I'm not disrespecting those athletes, but we're talking about at a certain level of football play. Yes, they're not capable. They should not be competing against Penn State. But Adam says silly. Aller threw an interception against a silly Villanova team. He's a disgrace. What under the radar team do you think can compete for the national championship? Well, I'll start to spit them out, and you can tell me if they are under the radar. The most off the beaten path that can compete for a national championship, and I will define competing for a national championship as being a team that either, number one, plays in a conference championship game, or 2, reaches the playoffs and wins a game. They are competing for the national championship. I will say, yes, Howie Long is an alum of Villanova. So Villanova does have the prestigious honor of having a former player as a Hall of Fame defensive tackle in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and also a longtime analyst at the desk for what is, or used to be, maybe still is, the number one show in all of NFL broadcasts. Is Howie Long still doing that? Is he still on the Fox broadcast? If he is, it's been like 30 years that he's been doing that. Broadcasting is great. You can maintain a career forever as long as you can still talk. And in the case of a number of people that I can think of, and I don't want to name names, but I'm thinking of very prominent people in the broadcasting field, even past the time that they were able to speak clearly, they still maintained a career and made fortunes. Who can compete for a national championship? Who could compete for a national championship? Well, I got to go with the same teams that I named. I got to start at least with the teams that I named in the preseason, because I still believe that there's a possibility of Texas A&M competing for a national championship, and USC competing for a national championship, and those are the first 2 teams that come to mind for me. I will say that we can hold the phone on Texas Tech on the winner of Saturday's Indiana-Illinois game. Not that the loser is going to be eliminated from playoff consideration, or that that's going to end their season, but it's going to be a huge blow to any playoff chances for the loser of Illinois-Indiana. The winner gets that boost, get past a difficult opponent. Ole Miss, I don't consider LSU to be a dark horse in any way. Those are the teams. So I pretty much laid out everybody that I thought in the preseason. The preseason dark horses for me were Texas A&M, USC, and the winner, I will say, of this Saturday game that I will count as the game that I want to see more than any other game in college football on Saturday. Indiana, Illinois, followed by Michigan and Nebraska, I believe. We're going to review the schedule. So, Adam, thank you for that. The Real MVP's calling us here tonight on the Voice of College Football. DeReal,
Hey,
what's going
Mark,
on?
how you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I think this week is a pretty deep week of games. There's not any like titanic matchups like there's going to be next week, but in terms of just uh playoff contender teams that'll define the season, I think this is your week. Auburn plays Oklahoma, Michigan, Nebraska, Illinois, Indiana. So I think this week will determine the 10 to 12 range and a lot more than most weeks will within the college football season.
Yeah, everybody that you just named, I think there are serious questions about, but they have an opportunity to show that not necessarily that they can beat an elite team, but that they can beat that they are separating themselves possibly from their level, their tier, or are ascending to the top of their tier.
Right, and that's going to be key for determining those last few playoff spots in particular. To me, this is a losers out week. Like, if Auburn loses to Oklahoma with the remainder of their schedule, it's going to be hard for me to imagine them making the playoffs. Same thing with Oklahoma, by the way.
Yeah.
Same thing with Michigan, Nebraska, and same thing with Illinois, Indiana. Would you generally agree with that?
Yeah. So let's separate technically eliminated from conceivably eliminated. So I agree with your breakdown of just what these teams would be showing us with a loss to a not so great team, a decent team, a team on their level. So most likely teams don't accelerate their season. They don't break through later. And then number two, that it's just one of two losses that they can afford to have. So Michigan's already lost a game. Somebody else that you mentioned already lost a game. Maybe not. Maybe just Michigan. So
yeah, if Michigan loses, I think they are, barring them upsetting Ohio State, I think they are eliminated from the playoff race. I don't see any way a 3-loss Big Ten team is making it in this year just because of the pure dominance of the SEC mark in general. So I'm honestly shocked that the Michigan isn't more consensusly picked. I see a lot of people picking Nebraska to win this game. I don't understand at all why anybody believes in Dylan Raiola to do anything. I mean, they struggled against a marginal to bad Cincinnati team. Like, whatever you think about Michigan versus Oklahoma, we generally know Oklahoma's a top 20 team in the country, and Michigan did have moments of greatness. I haven't seen anything from Nebraska to indicate they're going to win this game.
Yeah, so I think I made this comment to you the other day that out of these four teams in the Big Ten that we're talking about right now, I have the most confidence in Michigan, slightly over Indiana and Illinois, but mostly those three teams being in the same tier. I have a 75 to 80% confidence level that they are decent teams, that they're 8-4 top 25 teams at minimum. I have only a 15 to 20% confidence that Nebraska is that good, even though they may finish 8-4, but that they're truly a top 25 team or a fringe playoff contender. I have to see it out of Nebraska. We've not seen Nebraska play that level of football or beat a decent team in so long. Those other teams have. At least Indiana beat a string of teams last year. At least they beat Michigan. They beat Nebraska. They beat almost
And
all
it's
of them
also important
soundly.
to say the way they beat those teams also plays a factor.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And Illinois, the same thing. At least they put together a good season, a solid season. You know, they didn't really have any outstanding wins until the bowl game. And then Michigan's Michigan. I still believe in their defensive personnel, their running backs. But Nebraska, no, they have to prove to me that they're a good football team. I don't
Right.
think they're a good football team yet.
I'm completely in the same boat as you. I understand they beat some random school that nobody can name by 60 bajillion gazillion points, but that isn't enough to me to prove anything. Now, let me ask you, Mark. This might be controversial. Oh, this will be a controversial take. But I was looking at the playoff rankings, okay? And I'm looking at the paths for a team to make it. And I think there's a team out there that we all just assume is going to make it at 10-2. And they probably will finish 10-2. But if they get blown out in their 2 games, I don't think they should make it. And I'm talking, of course, of the Penn State Nittany Lions. If they get blown out by Oregon and Ohio State, they have no good wins. They've already struggled against cupcake teams. I'm just saying, it's not impossible for Penn State to miss the playoffs at 10-2. Now, do I think this is likely? No. But I am putting it on the radar. And I was correct about Indiana potentially missing the playoffs at 11-1 weeks before anybody else was saying it.
Okay, so what you're saying, I don't have an issue with it, but I question the committee's ability to be unbiased, because it's already been planted in their heads that Penn State is one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the country. It's been planted into everyone's minds based on my evaluation of their first 3 games. And again, this is not a performance eyeball evaluation, because I didn't waste my time watching them play scrimmages, but just based on statistics, scores, and my evaluation and knowledge of the teams that they played and their lack of ability, that Penn State to me is completely neutral in their first 3 games. They did what they're supposed to do. They didn't do anything impressive above that. They didn't squeak by anyone or turn in some kind of like 31-14 win. They just basically blasted through and did what they're supposed to do against us.
Well, hold on. I would like to give a little.
Games to me were inconsequential. I've got to now start evaluating Penn State next week.
Okay, can I get some pushback on that real quick?
Sure.
Halftime against 2 cupcake teams, being up only 10-0, something like that, for this level of team, a team we think can win the national championship, a team some people were saying is going to win the national championship, is putting me on pause. You can do it once and get away with it, but back-to-back games gives me a little bit pause. And also, Drew Aller at the half, he needs to get off to better starts. I'm sorry, you're going to get killed by Oregon and Ohio State if at halftime your stat line is 8 of 17 for 90-some yards.
Okay.
I expected him to do better than this against the teams. Can you, I don't see the improvement from Drew Aller that I and most people were expecting.
So let me give you some substance to why I said what I said and why I think you'll be won over to my point to a certain extent, is that regardless of what happened against those 3 teams, the final outcomes were roughly where they should be. That once Penn State steps onto the field against Oregon, that gets wiped away. If they are impressive against Oregon, then all is forgotten. If they struggle against Oregon or lose, if they win a close game against Oregon, then it's going to be a wait and see. Okay, they should have won that game. They're at home, but it's still an impressive win. It's still a very good win. But if they lose against Oregon, then it again just doesn't matter what happened in those first 3 games. They're going to have to perform against the Big Ten.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I'm just proposing if they get humiliated, similar in a fashion to Michigan State that one year they were ranked like 9th in the country, but they were down to half 49-0. Not that bad, obviously, but something to lines of just, we can clearly tell this team isn't the level of caliber of the other team. I do think these cupcake games at the end of the year, people will say, man, they were only up 10-0 against Villanova at the half. I mean, you got to, if you're going to play cupcakes and you're supposed to be in the playoff, at least do what Indiana did and destroy them start to finish. If you can't even do that, get killed by the top teams you play and then maybe struggle against some of the marginal teams, I do think there is a path here for Penn State to miss the playoffs.
Well, I get your point, and I don't discredit it at all. Everything should count. Everything should be considered and evaluated. I'm just saying that, first of all, I don't trust the committee for as much as I've somewhat defended them recently because of this playoff format proposal war that's been waged back and forth. I've somewhat defended them. I clearly don't trust the rankings, and I don't trust committees. And I know I'm merging the AP poll and the committee to a certain extent, because you cannot run through the AP poll currently, for example, and tell me that there would be teams ranked in those same positions if they weren't ranked in a certain manner in the preseason. Illinois, if Illinois was the Illinois of any time over the last 15 years, and they beat 2 cupcakes, and then they beat Duke by 3 scores, a team that turned around and lost to Tulane, the Illinois of the past would just be receiving votes based on that exact performance. But no, they had some cachet coming into the season. Therefore, they maintained their pole position and even increased it, I think, from 12 to 9, something like that. And we could go on down the line of teams that are ranked where they're ranked based on, and Penn State's the number one case. They are the case example right here of being ranked based on the perception of how good they are.
I get it. And thanks for the fact check, and you are correct. Villanova was 21-0 at the half. It was not a good 21-0 for Drew Aller, but it was 21-0. The FIU game was 10-0. So thank you for the fact check super chat in the comment. I want to make sure I'm only telling the correct information. I always encourage people to double check what I'm saying at all times. Just that way we have the most honest and open discussion. What concerns me most, Mark, is I'm not sure. Have you seen Oregon play this year at all?
No.
They look good, Mark. Like they look maybe even better than last year. Now, they haven't played anybody really good yet. Northwestern's probably the best team combined Oregon and Penn State have played. But I think Oregon has played higher level competition, Northwestern and Oklahoma State, and they've performed better against those teams that Penn State has. So I do think it is possible for Penn State to get absolutely hammered in this game, like a 21-28 point margin of victory loss. Like, I do think that is on the table for this game, especially with my disappointment in Drew Aller. I'll just be honest. I think DTR right now is a better quarterback than Drew Aller, and I think he's going to outplay him in this game coming up next week.
So I can't argue with the quarterback evaluation because Drew Aller, he disappoints me. He should be tearing those teams to shreds. Now, again, all will be forgotten by me and most if he lights up Oregon, lights up Ohio State, goes to Iowa against, even though they're going to be a decent favorite, lights up a really good defense. But he hasn't done that in the past, and he's not giving us indication that he has upped his game, even though that they have gone out to upgrade the wide receiver position. Yeah, Penn State's not off the hook. They have a fairly light schedule, but they're not off the hook. Going to Iowa is not going to be easy. Shoot, Indiana at home, not a cakewalk by any stretch.
Yeah, I'm just putting them on everybody has these assumptions that these amount of teams are going to make it. I do think at this point in the season, we're a quarter of the way in. We should actually be judging the teams based on the way they've played on the football field, even though they haven't played marginal opponents. If it's 1 week of slippage, I'm willing to forgive you, but back-to-back weeks of slippage by Penn State in the first half has me concerned.
So I know you're not predicting an Oregon win by 4 touchdowns, but it sounds like because you're putting that on the table that you feel good about Oregon being a better team going to Happy Valley winning.
Yeah, I think they're going to win by around 14 points right now if I had to predict the game.
Okay.
And I think Penn State, the James Franklin talk will happen. His record against top 5 teams will happen. People will assume Oregon could be placed as the number 1 team in the country, but I really like what I see out of Oregon, and I really don't like what I see out of Penn State. But anyway, Mark, just some food for thought next week with a massive game.
And just one note on Penn State. Again, this is obvious because it's right in front of us. But if they do lose to Oregon, then there's a bye there. But if you put the stretch together at Iowa, at Ohio State, Indiana, it's a difficult 3-game stretch for them.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, I wish Iowa would have found a quarterback that can throw the ball, Mark. I mean, for goodness sake.
We thought they did.
Yeah, I got to see it to believe it with them. Like, I'm at the point, it doesn't matter who they bring in. They could bring in Tom Brady in his prime, and I still wouldn't believe it with Iowa. Because it's Iowa. I mean, their quarterback had, 40 passing yards in the first half against their first game or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, not good, Mark. Not good. Indiana is on fraud watch. This is fraud watch week for them, the fraudulent bowl. So I don't think that stretch will be as daunting as it seems for Penn State when it actually happens. But anyway, Mark, that's all I got for you today. Have a great rest of your show.
Thanks, DeReal. Appreciate you. DeReal MVP and Penn State. Yes, let's evaluate these teams based on what they do on the field. Not that Penn State is the Penn State of what they've been under James Franklin, and they're supposed to be their best team that they've had in forever, and they came within a field goal of the national championship game last year, and all these things that we know, and brought back all this production, running backs, quarterback, bring in wide receivers, all the defensive talent. They always have a great defense. All of that, yes, that's all in the past. They've beaten 3 bad football teams and have looked, okay. They've done their job. Now they bring in Oregon. Night game, Happy Valley, next Saturday. Then the season starts. Penn State, I will say this all next week. Penn State, welcome to the 2025 college football season. Can we say this about anyone else? Who else has not played anyone? If we're going to take it to the Penn State level, well, Indiana's not played anyone. They finally do. Rutgers played Ohio U. That's kind of someone, at least somebody somewhat capable. And Maryland has played no one. Those are the only teams in the country who have played no one. Yes, they are the only teams in the country who have played absolutely no one. So, yeah. But we will focus on this week, of course, and week 4, and the 2 huge games in the Big Ten. Again, Michigan, Nebraska, Indiana, Illinois. And let's just run through it. Is inconsequential. Who cares? Past that, we've got I like the Friday game. Iowa lost to Iowa State. That severely hurts them. Of course, nobody's going to think about Iowa, give Iowa any chance in this season until they've got to roll off some wins. Corey Bratta said this on our Iowa show this week. He was looking at Rutgers, Indiana, and somebody else. Their next 3 games, Rutgers, Indiana, and somebody else is in there. Somebody else that they should beat, but can't take for granted. Another team like that. And those are the 3 games that they play before either Penn State or Oregon come to town. Both of those 2 come to town. And so Iowa rips off the 3 Big Ten wins. Then we can start to say, okay, the season starts for Iowa. They have passed some level of test here. Rutgers, Indiana, and again, there's somebody else in that mix. So until further notice, I'm watching Friday night's game. But if you're interested in like watching playoff teams, those kind of games that many of you are just focused on those teams, then come up with something better to do. You can read a book. You can paint a room. You can take your significant other out. You can do something. Hit the gym. But Iowa Rutgers, I'll watch the game because I like watching just anybody in the Power Four. I will watch, and I like these Friday night Big Ten games. What I like about it, it gives me an opportunity to just watch two other teams play that would have otherwise been stacked up against the other Saturday windows. So yeah, now this Texas Tech Utah game, along with the Kansas State Iowa State game in Dublin, is to date the most important Big 12 game of the year to date. So this is going to be that initial data point differentiator. It's not going to be the final one. We've got a lot of football to play, especially in that conference. A lot of football to play because Utah and Texas Tech both can lose to almost everyone on their schedule. They are not Ohio State. They are not Georgia, where you just look at 3 games. So Texas Tech, Utah, I will watch. Yes, I will watch that game. And that's going to tell me a lot about those teams, and it's going to familiarize me with those teams because I haven't seen them this year. I did have some interest in Utah and UCLA, but I believe I was sitting here when they were playing. So I've not seen either one of those teams play, but I will be locked in on Utah and at Texas Tech. I'm very curious to see a game that I'd be surprised if it was a blowout in either direction. Arkansas at Memphis. Arkansas might be gaining a little buzz right now. Had they been able to complete an upset in Oxford, then we would be looking at, okay, undefeated Arkansas team that just beat Ole Miss. But Arkansas is one of those teams that nobody's talking about in the offseason. There's no buzz around Arkansas. They are one of the most invisible teams in the nation right now. And that just, even though they showed to be a good team, they showed that they're a decent team. They needed to win that game to kind of generate some buzz. Now, obviously, this game does not help them in the SEC, but it's an important game for them. If they have any playoff hopes, which I know that sounds like a joke, but shoot, they pushed Ole Miss to the limit. And no, I do not expect Arkansas to be vying for a playoff spot, but I'm just keeping all options open. And I'm just saying that they showed last week, just like they showed a few times last year, like when Tennessee went into Arkansas and lost, that they can, when they've got the right game plan and it's the right week, they can compete with anybody in the conference. That's not going to happen every time they step on the field, but most times they didn't get blown out many times last year, only against Ole Miss, maybe one other time. They were tough on Texas A&M, etc. But Memphis, obviously, this is a huge game for Memphis. They're the reason why this is an ABC game at noon Eastern, even though Arkansas probably is going to draw more viewers. But Memphis, obviously, they've beaten 2 or 3 bad teams. I can't even recollect who they've won against. But this is going to be a huge game for Memphis in terms of the college football playoff. Maryland, Wisconsin, geez, they might, outside of Los Angeles, be the 2 worst teams in the Big Ten. Syracuse and Clemson. Well, Clemson's an enormous favorite in this game, and they just have to win back a little confidence and get going. Somebody's going to be coaching in place of Brent Pry for Virginia Tech against Wofford. Which brings me to another note. I believe I saw tonight that Rhett Lashley, did I? Anyway, we'll get to that in just a second. SMU and TCU. That's an interesting game. That should be a fun game. They scored over 100 points, these two, last year. This time they're in Dallas. TCU's a touchdown favorite in this game. That kind of surprises me. SMU dusted them last year, and SMU barely lost to Baylor. It took, and I don't know that home field is huge in this matchup. It certainly wouldn't be if they were playing at SMU. TCU, rabid crowd. They get the fan support there. So I got 3 noon games that I really like. But it's going to be all about Texas Tech and Utah. And then secondarily, this TCU SMU game. Arkansas, Memphis, those 3. Oklahoma and Auburn. And Michigan and Nebraska. 3:30. I'm set. Forget the rest of it. We talked with DeReal about Michigan, Nebraska. I believe that Michigan is still a top 15 to 20 team in the country. Are they going to be cutting Bryce Underwood loose? So Bryce Underwood saw a hostile crowd for the first time in his career at Oklahoma. I don't know that he melted under the pressure. He didn't play well. So that was probably combination bad wide receiver play, Brent Venables' defense, his defense athletically, but also, of course, Brent Venables being one of the best. And then hostile crowd, first road game against a real opponent, too. It's not like they went to Northwestern and played in front of 22,000 people that were yawning throughout the first half at Oklahoma. So Bryce Underwood's seen that. So number one, he has seen a good defense already now, a hostile defense. He sees a good one in practice, but he is seeing a good defense for the second time. Probably not as good a defense as Oklahoma, and he's seeing a hostile crowd. So maybe he plays better. Michigan definitely has to run it better against Nebraska than they did against Oklahoma. If they don't, they are in serious trouble and will, if they put up similar rushing stats at Nebraska than they did against Oklahoma, they will most likely lose the game. Now, can Michigan win a 13-10 game? Sure they can. This is Dylan Raiola's opportunity to show that he has improved. He was not great against Cincinnati. Of course, he was not great last season. I do not believe in Nebraska. Why would I? Why would I believe in Nebraska? When is the last time Nebraska beat a good football team? When is the last time Nebraska beat a good football team? Do we have any Nebraska fans in the house? Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you being here. Rowan says that Red Lashley might go to Arkansas if Pittman leaves. And no, what I saw tonight was speculation that Red Lashley goes to UCLA. So anyway, look at this. I'm going to pull up Nebraska's football seasons. It's the last time they beat not a great team, not a national championship contender, but the last time they beat, not Rutgers when they beat Rutgers last year, like a good team, a top 25 caliber team. It's been forever. It's been forever. This actually sounds like it's going to be a good tweet to throw out there. Got to rile up some Nebraska fans. This is just, it's pathetic. It is pathetic what this program has been. And Matt Rule's in his third year, and I believe he's a good head coach. But now's the time. It's his third year. Now is the time. And that doesn't mean if he fails this year and let's say they go 7-5 and they're really not that good and it's a paper thin 7-5 that he should be run out of town. I do not believe that, but it would be disappointing. Okay, you can call me on this one. If you want to consider last year's Colorado team that finished right just inside the top 25, if you believe in the top 25. So Nebraska did win that game. Okay, forgot about that one. And decisively. So that Colorado team at 9-4. Okay, their best win in the Big Ten was against Rutgers, 7-6. They beat a 7-6 Rutgers team, and they beat a 7-6 Boston College team in the Pinstripe Bowl. Now, before that, it's going to be rather pathetic. Their best win, well, Northwestern went 8-5 that previous season. They beat them. Okay, still not a top 25 team, but close. That was the David Braun team when he took them over and they surprised the world and won a bowl game. And yeah, so 8-5 Northwestern, 7-6 Rutgers, as in a Big Ten opponent. This 2022 season. Yeah. They beat Iowa, who went 8-5. That's right. The last game of the season. That's when Iowa lost its starting quarterback. They started Joey Labus. And Nebraska did win that game. So there's 3 wins over Big Ten teams that had, yes, winning records. 2021, they beat Fordham, Buffalo, and Northwestern, 3-9. Yikes. 2020, they beat Penn State, who was 4-5. They beat no winning teams. 2019, we're still looking for the last time they beat a top 25 team. Uh, 2018, they beat that Minnesota team, and that was PJ Fleck's first season, and then his team went on a roll right after that. But still, only 7-6. Michigan State went 7-6, so still no top 25 wins. 2017, that was the beginning of the dark ages. They beat no good teams. They beat Purdue 7-6. Still looking for a top 25 type win. 2016, okay, this is their last good season, but they were a paper giant, 7-0. Then they went to Columbus. Well, they lost to Wisconsin. Then they went to Columbus, got pasted. So they beat a 9-4 Minnesota team. So I'm going to qualify that as a top 25 type win. Okay. All right. I'll say 2016 is the last time that Nebraska beat a top 25 caliber team. 9-4 Minnesota. The last time they beat they beat this Michigan State team that went to the playoff in 2015. So that's a whole other level. Yeah, that's right. They beat them. So I was going to say that they've never beaten anyone good that's really, really good, like championship caliber, while they've been in the Big Ten. But they did get that one win against Sparty 2015. So yeah, 2016. This would be their best opponent, the best opponent that they've defeated since 2016. All right, all right, all right. Rowan, thank you so much for that note. Rhett Lashley's an Arkansas alum. That's if they fire Sam Pittman, of course. All right, back to, and folks, keep in mind, I am yours for an hour every night. If you want to keep me around longer, you may do so. All right, also keep in mind, the picks have been outstanding. 61-15 straight up. 37-21 against the spread. 37-21 against the spread. If you put $100 on each one of those games, you would have lost, let's see, $2,100 on those games. And you would have made 3,700 times like 91. So that's like $3,500. You'd be 1,400 up. Not advocating it, just saying. So you can do one of two things. Either you can get the top tier at YouTube or Patreon and get my predictions: Steve Dace, Corey Brada, Matt Zemek, and Steve Merrill under the radar selection 30-13 against the spread. That would do it for you right there. Or you can purchase by the week. Just added that. You can do that. You can purchase by the week. Just $10. $9.99. And I will double check on that. Yes, $9.99. So that is available on Patreon. Can't do that on YouTube, but we can do that on Patreon. It must be some kind of new feature that we can release these posts each week. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. Yeah. So again, I know that this means absolutely nothing to most of you, and that's cool. But yeah, deliver the picks. And again, Corey Brad, Matt Zemek, Steve Dace, and Steve Merrill with the Under the Radar. And starting this week, I would love to have done this starting the season or in previous seasons, but they give us an option on Patreon now where you can purchase them just that week, just that post you can purchase. So I'll make that $9.99. Oklahoma, Auburn. Man, this is a huge game for both of these coaches. Both of these coaches. Hugh Freeze and Brent Venables. These two guys have only won. You know, Brent Venables is only going into this season. He was only 22-17 at Oklahoma. Shoot, Lincoln Riley was 50-10 at Oklahoma. I know there has to be some context given to that, and Lincoln Riley inherited Bob Stoops' program, and Bob Stoops was not there. It was Lincoln Riley that handed the program to Brent Venables. Hugh Freeze was 11-14. These guys were 33-31 at Auburn and Oklahoma. They're both off to 3-0 starts, though. And Vegas really likes Oklahoma about a touchdown, I believe. Tulane at Ole Miss. Ole Miss last season went to Tulane and barely squeezed by. We talked Michigan, Nebraska. I was on Michigan podcast this week in Bigger 10, so more analysis on that there. NC State is they're actually an underdog on the road at Duke, but they're 3-0. They've won a game in the ACC, but it was one of those ACC games that didn't count as a conference game. Anyway, they could go to 4-0. It's pretty reasonable. So NC State could be one of these teams that we get into late September, and it's like, okay, there's a couple teams around the nation that nobody's really noticing, but they're piling up like 5 or 6 wins here at this point. 5-0, 6-0 could be a little interesting. Let's look at NC State's ACC schedule to see if they could be a bit of a dark horse. So they've got the 3 wins in the bag. 1 is an ACC win. I know it looks like 2, but 1 is these next 3 games are more than winnable. That puts them at 6-0 going to Notre Dame. Okay. That's a problem. And then the closing stretch is, they've got a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do because going to Pitt's going to be difficult. Georgia Tech is a really good football team, and Miami might be a national championship contender. Florida State, that's a rough 5 games. So dismiss the NC State talk for right now. But I was thinking maybe we're going to run in one of those ACC schedules that kind of navigates itself like, wow, look at that. They get by them and then them, the rest of it's. But that's not NC State. Notre Dame, Pitt, Georgia Tech, Miami, Florida State in a row. Yeah, if they win 4 of those games, then they're a whole lot better than I ever thought. All right, let's put the NC State talk to rest until they do something. Whoops. Purdue at Notre Dame. Used to always love watching that game. That should be a yawner. Interesting out-of-conference game here. North Carolina and UCF. It's on Fox. As soon as I saw that Fox designation, I thought, what's the connection there? Oh, yeah, UCF's in the Big 12. Big 12, Fox. So strange. Troy played well against Clemson at Buffalo. I'm not even going to attempt to break down the MAC or any of the group of 5s, but I was tempted to there for a second. Temple just got done with Oklahoma. Now they've got to go to Georgia Tech. Northern Illinois, I pointed this out in the offseason because it was probably surrounding all the Notre Dame talk of them beating Notre Dame the year before. They have an extremely respectable history against Power 5 teams, Northern Illinois. Like they have hardly ever gotten blown out. And who was the quarterback? Jordan Lynch, that led them to the Orange Bowl against Florida State in 2012. West Virginia, Kansas. Check out our conversation with Mountaineer Paul last night, talking about West Virginia's 3-headed quarterback and Rich Rod and how pumped they were about winning the backyard brawl and now going to Kansas as a 2-touchdown underdog. Kansas lost to Missouri a couple weeks ago. That was a good ball game. That was an entertaining game. So don't look at the final score. Kansas up with 4 minutes left, 35-31. No, 31-27. Up 4, 5 minutes left. So they played really well at Missouri. So Kansas, that might be the most impressive performance in the Big 12 this year. Iowa State beating Iowa, or Kansas leading at Missouri with 5 minutes left. We talked about Lenora Sellers. He's questionable. Luke Doty, 6th-year starting quarterback, or former starting quarterback at South Carolina. He was one of those 4 that started for South Carolina in Shane Beamer's first year. He had 4 starting quarterbacks. Still went 7-6. At Mizzou. Again, Mizzou, I've got them ranked fairly high because they were strong against Kansas. Boise State and Air Force. I don't know about this season, but most seasons a huge game in the Mountain West. Florida at Miami. Miami looks so good, and Florida looks so inept on offense. And, of course, DJ Lagway gave it away 5 times last weekend. So that's going to be a tough one for Florida. Florida's going to have to play out of their minds, and Lagway's going to have to put that behind him. We talked about Illinois and Indiana. Vegas likes Indiana by 5.5, so there's something there. If you really break down the numbers against Duke, the Illinois 3-score win is a bit overrated. Washington State gave up 59 points to North Texas. And so now they try to regroup at home in the Apple Cup game. Stanford pulled a shocker, if you didn't notice, against Boston College. This reminds me of a bunch of games. This always, when I run through the schedule for the current week, it always leads me back to games that I wish I would have seen. And believe it or not, call me just a complete moron for wanting to go back and watch Stanford and Boston College. Arizona State, Baylor. That's a big game in the Big 12. That's a big, big game in the Big 12. And that's, unfortunately, that's going to run up against, no, it's not. No, the Michigan, Nebraska, and Auburn, Oklahoma windows at 3:30. So I like Arizona State and Baylor. Yeah, I really. Oh, well, Illinois, Indiana's definitely got. Oh, well, those are the 2. Florida, Miami, Illinois, Indiana. Those are the 2 I'm watching. So sorry, Big 12. Again, you get edged out. You always have like the 4th best game of the window, the 3rd best game, but no. Unless one of those get out of hand, I have nothing to decide there. It's all set for me. And then there's really nothing late night, except I like Michigan State USC. I was looking at the Michigan State numbers. Mekhi Frazier, their top running back, had to leave the game against Youngstown State. He's kind of questionable. And they could not run the ball against Youngstown State outside of Aiden Childs. Their quarterback could run the ball, but the running backs could not run the ball. So I have some reservations about Michigan State going out to USC. I kind of liked that as a really fun late night game to watch. But yeah, Vegas really likes, I would have said that was going to be like a 12 or 13 point spread, but they're in the 19 range on that. All right, folks. We appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. I'll make it on back here at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday night. If you do as well, tell your friends and family, your neighbors to gather around the old internet. It's kind of like back in the old days. You hear about World War II and gathering around the radio. Yeah. So we'll do that on Thursday night. Be here 10 p.m. Eastern, and we will be with you talking college football.